Ever feel like the bad guys are winning? Like the ones who lie, cheat, and cut corners? Seem to have all the success, all the glory, while you're left wondering why your efforts don't seem to matter. You watch them rise to the top, effortlessly skating through life, while you're stuck trying to do things the right way, struggling, facing rejection, and dealing with setbacks. It's not just frustrating, it feels unjust. You've seen it firsthand, people mocking what's good, mocking truth, mocking God, and yet they're applauded, they're celebrated. Meanwhile, you try your best to stay faithful, to do things by the book, to hold on to your integrity, and it feels like nothing ever goes your way. The harder you try, the more it feels like the world rewards the wicked. Why does it seem like the corrupt climb higher, while the righteous are left behind? It's a question that stirs deep inside, one you might be afraid to even speak out loud. You've asked yourself, why does God allow this? Why do the arrogant walk freely, unchallenged? Why do the humble get overlooked, while the proud strut around, receiving applause? It doesn't add up. You see the injustice happening, and it feels like you're fighting an uphill battle, where the deck is stacked against you. It doesn't seem fair. But here's something you need to understand. The way things look right now is not the final story. God sees something that you can't, something far beyond the surface. What seems like a victory for the wicked might just be the beginning of their downfall. You can't judge a book by its cover, especially when it comes to the story God is writing. So when it feels like evil people are winning, remember this isn't the whole story. What you see as their success may actually be the setup for their failure. There's a purpose behind the pain, behind the struggle. And if you stick with me, we'll uncover the truth that will change how you see everything. The battle isn't over, not by a long shot. It's easy to look at the world around us and feel like the wicked are winning. They seem to have it all: wealth, power, influence, and they flaunt it without a care in the world. Meanwhile, you're doing everything you can to live right, but it feels like the world is just passing you by. You pray, you give, you serve, and yet it seems like you're the one who's left behind. You watch the cheaters, the manipulators, and the liars climb to the top, and it leaves you questioning, what's going on? Here's the thing. You're only seeing part of the picture. What's visible to the eye, the house, the car, the fame, might look like success, but it's only the surface. What you don't see is the destruction beneath it all. You don't see the crumbling souls, the lies they have to tell to stay on top, or the isolation they're building for themselves. The pride, the deception, the emptiness. They might be loud, but that doesn't mean they're winning in the way that matters. God's perspective is different. He sees the ending. He sees the judgment that's come. When the world rewards pride and deception, it's easy to forget that God isn't fooled by the surface. While we see the moment, the fame, the applause, he sees the soul behind it. He sees the trap they're walking straight into, and he's allowing them the rope to hang themselves. Every decision made in arrogance, every step taken in pride, they're all storing up consequences they can't outrun. Do you think that just because it looks like they're getting away with it now, they'll never face the consequences? Think again. What you see as success might actually be a setup for a fall. Do you really want their platform if it means sacrificing your peace? Would you trade your soul for their spotlight? What seems like a victory for them could be the very thing leading them toward their destruction. The applause they're getting today won't last. Their influence is temporary. Their success is fleeting. They're not escaping judgment. They're only delaying it. And when that judgment comes, it won't be because they got away with something. It'll be because they never truly understood the cost of what they were gaining. God sees what we can't. He sees the final chapter of their story, and it's not a pretty one. So don't envy the wicked. Don't be fooled by what you see. Trust in God's time. He's working behind the scenes and he's got a plan. His view is eternal, while their success is temporary. Keep your eyes on the bigger picture. God's justice will come, and when it does, everything will be set right. Sometimes God allows evil to rise, not to give it victory, but to expose what's hidden in plain sight. The wicked may seem to triumph, but their success can be the very thing God uses to bring out the truth. You might think that when the wicked prosper, it means that everything is falling apart. But look closer. God is using this moment, this very spotlight on evil, to reveal what's been lurking in the dark. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone, maybe someone you even admired, rise to fame or success, only to have their true character exposed for all to see? Maybe their pride, their deceit, or their hidden insecurities all come to the surface. It's a sobering thought, but sometimes God lets people who are full of pride or greed step into the light so that the rest of us can see their true nature. The rise of the wicked forces everyone around them to take a closer look, not just at them, but at their own hearts too. What does your heart reveal when evil seems to win? Do you still trust God, or do you start looking at the wicked with envy, thinking they have something you're missing? It's easy to get caught up in the moment, to start wondering why the good seem to get overlooked, while the bad seem to flourish. But don't be deceived. God's not just giving the wicked space to succeed. He's giving us a chance to see clearly, to see who we really are and where we stand. It's a test, not just for them, but for us. Sometimes we envy what we don't understand. The wicked seem to have it all: money, influence, and power. But these things can be fleeting, hollow, even destructive. It's easy to start thinking that maybe they've figured something out. But what if their rise is the very thing that reveals their weakness? God lets the wicked win temporarily so we can see the truth, so that we're not led astray by the false allure of success without substance. When we see their fall, we're reminded of what truly matters. So the next time you feel like the wicked are winning, remember that God is revealing more than just their flaws. He's revealing your heart. He's giving you a chance to examine your own motives, your own desires, and your trust in Him. And when you embrace that opportunity, you'll find that God's light shines brightest in the places we least expect. You've probably heard people say this world isn't fair. They're right. But what if the truth runs deeper than that? What if this place isn't meant to be fair at all? What if Earth isn't supposed to be a place of perfect justice, but a battleground where the real fight happens behind the scenes? Too many people expect a palace when what they're living in is actually a war zone. Look around. The systems of this world aren't aligned with the will of God. They're influenced by the enemy. From the governments to the media, from businesses to the culture we breathe in every day, there's an undercurrent of corruption and compromise. It's all part of the larger spiritual battle being fought for the hearts and minds of humanity. The wicked rise, sin is celebrated, and the faithful feel like strangers in their own land. But that's not a coincidence. When you see the unjust rising to power, the answer isn't to be shocked or discouraged. It's to understand what's really going on. This isn't the final stage. Earth is not the throne room where all things are made right. It's the battlefield where we fight for truth, righteousness, and justice. The war isn't over yet, but we know the outcome. Think of it this way. If this world were heaven, there would be no struggle, no trials, no evil. But it's not. Satan has influence here. He's been given a measure of authority in this world, and he's using it to deceive, to divide, and to destroy. That's why evil sometimes seems to triumph. But that doesn't mean God is losing control. He's allowing this battle to rage for a time. Every moment of evil is actually a moment where God's grace is still being extended. It's a time for repentance, a time for people to choose their side. You're not stuck here to simply wait for a better world. You're here to stand firm in the middle of a fight. You've been equipped with spiritual armor, and you've been given authority. The enemy's loud, his schemes are widespread, but they're temporary. This world isn't your home, and the battle isn't the end, but it's the reason you're here. It's the reason you can stand strong in the midst of adversity, because you're on the winning side. The victory has already been secured, so don't be fooled by what you see around you. This is just the battleground. The throne room is coming. It's frustrating, isn't it? You see the wicked prosper, while the righteous struggle. It feels like justice is nowhere to be found, like those who do wrong are getting away with it, and those who try to do right are getting the short end of the stick. You wonder, where is God in all of this? Why doesn't He act fast? Why doesn't He strike down the evil and set things right? Here's something you need to understand. God's justice doesn't operate on the same timeline we do. It's not about reacting in the moment, based on our emotions or our sense of urgency. God's justice is eternal, not temporary. He isn't driven by our impatience or by how things look in the moment. He sees the big picture. He knows the ending. He's not slow. He's precise. When His justice comes, it will be perfect and complete. You've seen it before, haven't you? It seems like the wicked thrive, building their empires on lies and deception. They get ahead while you're struggling to stay faithful. You feel like they're winning and that justice has failed you. But God's justice isn't delayed. It's built every moment, every second. Every act of wickedness is being accounted for. Those who think they're getting away with it are only storing up wrath for the day of reckoning. They might seem to win now, but the truth is they're only digging their own. Take a moment to think about this. God's justice doesn't just happen. It's not a reaction. It's a plan that's unfolding with purpose. And when it arrives, nothing will be left unaccounted for. Every lie, every act of evil, every betrayal, every injustice will be brought to light. The wicked might have their moment of victory, but it's nothing more than a temporary illusion. Remember this. God isn't being slow. He's allowing time for repentance. He's giving people a chance to turn from their ways before the final judgment comes. Every time someone chooses to do wrong, they're not escaping justice. They're only pushing themselves closer to it. And when the time is right, God will strike with perfect timing. His justice will not miss. It will be precise. The scales of justice will tip in favor of the righteous, and the wicked will be held accountable. So don't let the delay in justice shake your faith. Trust in God's perfect timing. He is not blind, He is not weak, and He is certainly not silent. What seems like a delay now is just Him giving grace, giving mercy, and giving time for people to turn from their evil ways. When God acts, it won't be a moment too soon, and it won't be a second too late. His justice is slow, But when it comes, it will be. Every time you see someone rise to power through deceit, manipulation, or greed, it might feel like they're winning, like they've figured it all out. But in reality, they're laying the groundwork for their own destruction. You see, when the wicked climb to the top by stepping on others, they're not just getting ahead, they're digging a hole they won't be able to escape from. What seems like success today is often a trap being set for tomorrow. Their pride is the shovel, their lies the dirt, and their arrogance is what keeps them digging. The higher they climb, the harder they'll fall, and what they don't realize is that with every step they take, they're inching closer to a downfall they never saw coming. Take a moment to think about it. The liar who manipulates situations for gain, the cheater who bends the rules to get ahead. They may think they're getting away with it, but what they're actually doing is creating a trap that will eventually snap shut on them. The thing is, God doesn't need to strike them down immediately. He doesn't need to step in and stop their rise to the top. He simply lets them build, lets them dig their own hole until the trap they've set for others becomes the one that captures them. Look at the prideful man who thrives on the downfall of others. He might feel invincible for now, but sooner or later his ego will be too heavy to carry. It's the law of the universe. You reap what you sow. What goes around comes around, and the wicked are no exception. The empire they've built on lies will crumble. The empire they've constructed with manipulation will implode from within. The Bible speaks about it time and time again. Look at Haman in the book of Esther. He built his gallows to hang Mordecai to destroy God's people. He rose to power, gaining favor, thinking he was untouchable. But in the end, those very gallows became his downfall. The trap he set for others became the one that caught him. He dug his own pit, and he fell into it. God doesn't need to intervene immediately to make it right. The wicked will fall, not because of God's judgment right away, but because they've constructed their own demise. They don't realize it, but with every move they make, they're building the very trap that will bring them down. And when the time comes, their downfall will be just as swift as their rise. So don't envy them. Don't look at their success and wish it were yours. They may be climbing, but they're climbing toward their own collapse. You, on the other hand, have the opportunity to build something that lasts, something grounded in truth, not lies. When the trap finally snaps shut on the wicked, those who have remained faithful will be the ones who stand tall. You're only seeing a chapter, not the entire book. Life can feel like a string of defeats, those moments where it seems like the wicked are winning, where injustice reigns, and you're left wondering if it will ever get better. But the truth is, what you're experiencing now isn't the whole story. It's just one scene, and God is the author, not you. Think about the cross. To the disciples, it seemed like the end. The Son of God betrayed, beaten, crucified, mocked. The whole world watched as the hope of humanity hung on that cross, seemingly defeated. If you were there, you'd probably ask, where is God in all of this? Why is he letting evil have its way? But here's the thing. The story wasn't over. It wasn't even close to over. 3 days later, the stone rolled away. The very moment that seemed like Satan's victory turned out to be God's grand plan all along. What looked like the ultimate defeat was the setup for the ultimate victory. The resurrection wasn't just a surprise. It was the climax of a story that had been written long before. God wasn't surprised by what happened on the cross. He knew what he was. Now you might feel like you're walking through a season of loss, like the battle is never ending. But that's because you're looking at this moment, this chapter. God sees the end of the book. He knows where this story is going, and he's working things out in ways you can't even imagine. You're thinking in terms of today's struggle, but God is thinking about the eternity he's preparing for you. The chapters are being written with a purpose that goes beyond what you see. The enemy wants you to think this is the final act, that your suffering is pointless. He wants you to believe that the victory of the wicked today means they've won forever. But God is writing a much bigger story. Your trials, your waiting, your pain, they're all part of something greater. When you're in the middle of the storm, it's easy to feel like you're losing. But remember, the victory is already secured. God is setting the stage for his perfect ending. So don't judge the story by what you see right now. The full picture is still unfolding. Trust the author, because he's not done with you yet. When it's all said and done, every tear you've shed, every battle you've fought, will make sense in light of the glory he's preparing. What if everything you've been taught about success is wrong? What if the very things that feel like failure are actually signs of victory? It's easy to look at the world and think that success is measured by applause, wealth, or popularity. But what if God's definition of success is nothing like what we've been told? Take a moment to think about the people who've been mocked, ridiculed, and rejected. The ones who have stayed faithful even when it seemed like the whole world was against them. It's easy to look at them and think they're losing, isn't it? But what if their perseverance, their refusal to compromise, is the real win? In God's eyes, standing firm in the face of opposition, choosing righteousness over ease, is a victory that echoes through eternity. Consider the story of Stephen in the book of Acts. Here was a man who was full of faith, bold in the spirit, and on fire for God. He was stoned to death for his unwavering testimony. In human terms, he lost. But in heaven's eyes, he was a hero. In fact, the Bible tells us that as Stephen breathed his last, Jesus himself stood up from his throne, Jesus, seated at the right hand of God, stood in honor of Stephen. That month of apparent defeat was the moment that Stephen's victory in heaven was sealed. What we perceive as losing often reveals the true depth of our faith. The world might crush you, call you weak, and label you as a failure. But in God's kingdom, it's the faithful who are truly winning. You may not see it now, but when you stand firm in the face of rejection, when you refuse to follow the crowd, you are walking the path of victory. Think about the times you've been overlooked, the moments when your efforts seemed in vain. Maybe it feels like you're fighting a battle that no one notices, but God sees every sacrifice, every tear, every step you take. The applause of the world is fleeting. The applause of heaven lasts forever. If you've ever felt like you were losing, like your faith wasn't enough, let me remind you, God doesn't measure success the way the world does. What looks like losing now may very well be the victory you'll see in eternity. Keep standing, keep believing, because your reward is coming. And when it does, it will be worth every struggle. You weren't put on this earth to simply watch as evil unfolds around you. You weren't created to sit back, passively observing the darkness and wondering why it's taking over. No, you were made to stand up. You were made to resist. We've all seen it, the rising tide of corruption, the normalization of lies, the open celebration of sin, and it can feel overwhelming. It's easy to get discouraged, to think that nothing can be done, to accept that the world is simply falling apart. But here's the truth. You are not powerless. The moment you think you're just a spectator, you lose sight of who you are. You were never meant to blend in with a broken world. You were made to stand out. There's no neutral ground in the spiritual battle. Every time you choose silence in the face of evil, you're not taking the high road. You're surrendering ground to the enemy. Passivity doesn't change anything. It doesn't make things better. It allows evil to thrive. In this war, in the face of injustice, standing still is not an option. You either move forward in faith, or you retreat in fear. Think about the early church. They didn't grow because it was easy. They didn't grow because they lived in comfort. They were bold. They stood firm, even when they knew it meant persecution. They didn't whisper the truth. They declared it, unapologetically. They didn't bow to pressure, and they didn't back down when the world laughed at them. They resisted. They fought with faith. They fought with righteousness. You're in a war whether you want to be or not. And this war isn't just happening on the streets or in the headlines. It's happening in every conversation, in every choice you make, in the quiet of your own heart. Evil doesn't win by force. It wins by convincing people to do nothing, to remain passive, to sit idly. It wins when good people stay silent. You were made for more than that. You were made to resist. When the world tries to drag you into compromise, you stand firm. When everyone around you is taking the easy path, you stay true to your faith. You speak truth when it's hard. You stand for what's right when it's unpopular. Resistance doesn't always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it's simply standing your ground when everything around you is shaking. So don't just sit back and watch as the world spins out of control. Rise up, resist, because when you stand against evil, you're not just protecting yourself. You're protecting everyone around you. You were made for this. Evil may seem to have the upper hand, but don't be deceived. What we're witnessing is nothing more than a temporary set. It's easy to get caught up in the headlines, in the rise of the corrupt, in the victories of the wicked. But if you zoom out and take a long, hard look at the bigger picture, you'll see that the story is far from over. It's not the battle that defines the outcome. And God has already secured the final victory. When you see the wicked rising, remember this, their success is fleeting. The applause, the wealth, the influence, they are all built on shaky foundations. The Bible makes it clear that the plans of the wicked are destined to crumble. They may have the stage for now, but they don't have the final say. We serve a God who laughs at the schemes of the wicked, because he knows their end. What may seem like their victory today is just a setup for a greater revelation of God's justice. Think about the moments throughout history where evil seemed to triumph, when rulers thought they had conquered everything, when tyrants looked unbeatable. But in every instance, God's plan unfolded with precision. The same is true today. No matter how high the wicked climb, their fall will be just as inevitable. Their arrogance will be their undoing, their pride their downfall. It's just a matter of time. This is why it's so crucial to keep your eyes fixed on God and not be distracted by the temporary victories of the wicked. They may win a round, but God owns the ring. Their applause today is nothing compared to the glory that awaits the faithful in the end. The war isn't over yet, and God's final word will leave no room for doubt. The righteous will be exalted, and every evil throne will. The truth is, we're fighting from a place of victory. The ultimate battle has already been won. Jesus has already defeated sin, death, and the enemy. His resurrection is the proof that evil does not have the final say. What may feel like a loss now is part of a bigger plan, a divine strategy that will be revealed in its perfect time. So stand firm in your faith. Trust in the God who holds the outcome of every battle. The war belongs to him, and in the end he will make all things right. The victory is already secured, and the wicked will not have the last word.